AITA for keeping my house and $3,900 from my mom after she publicly humiliated me? My name is Jessica. I am 35 years old, and until recently I would have said I led a pretty normal life. I work as a key account manager at a trading company with offices in the Loop. It is a demanding, well-paid job, one of those that consumes your entire day and leaves you exhausted. But I always liked feeling that I had everything in order. 3 years ago, I divorced my husband, Kevin. It was not a scandalous separation full of fights. We simply reached a point where we were no longer heading in the same direction. We did not have children, and that made everything simpler. The only thing we really had to split was a weekend home we had just outside the city in a quiet wooded area near St. Charles, Illinois. Nothing extravagant, but it is a beautiful property with 3 bedrooms, a large garden, and enough land to make you feel truly away from the noise. Kevin did not want it. He was always more of a city person, preferring apartments, restaurants, and not driving his car unless absolutely necessary. So the house was left to me in the divorce settlement. First, I thought about selling it immediately. To be honest, it seemed like the most logical thing. I did not need such a large house outside the city. My plan was to sell it and use that money to buy a better apartment in the city, something modern, practical, and close to work. But as soon as my family found out, they got fully involved. My parents, Diane and Thomas, are in their 60s. My dad worked his whole life in construction, and my mom was a middle school teacher before retiring. They are the kind of people who always have an opinion on everything, especially when it comes to me or my sister. And my sister, Brooke, was always the spoiled one in the house. She is 5 years younger than me. She works at a boutique in a shopping center downtown and had been dating Jason for a while, a calm guy who worked in IT or something like that. I never disliked him. Period. Brooke was always the most sociable, the biggest partygoer, the one who knows people everywhere and loves any excuse to get together. The day I mentioned I was thinking of selling the house, we were at our Sunday family lunch. My mom put down her silverware and looked at me as if I had said something outrageous. "Jessica, you cannot sell that house," she told me. "It is beautiful. Imagine everything we could experience there as a family." "Yes, sister," Brooke said, jumping right in. "It could be like our getaway spot. We can have barbecues, get-togethers, and celebrate important dates." I tried to explain to them that it made no sense to keep a property I was barely going to use, but then my mom gave me that look she has used since I was a little girl. That mixture of tenderness and pressure that always worked on me. "Please, Jessica," she told me, taking my hand across the table. "Keep the house. Do it for the family. Do it for me." When my mom spoke to me like that, I had a very hard time saying no. I have always had a soft spot for my parents. I saw them work hard their whole lives, sacrifice, and tighten their belts for us. So I ended up accepting. Instead of selling the house, I took the plunge and got a mortgage to buy an apartment in the Lakeview neighborhood. Luckily, I had good savings and was able to make a large down payment, so the monthly payments did not suffocate me. The apartment was perfect for me. 2 bedrooms, a modern kitchen, good lighting, and a convenient location to commute to work and live a quiet life. The first thing I did, however, was have a security system installed in the house near St. Charles. I am a single woman, and that property is in an area where, if you go during the week, sometimes no one passes by for hours. I installed cameras all around, sensors, and a monitored alarm. Between the equipment, the installation, and everything else, I ended up spending about $3,400, but I felt it was worth it for the peace of mind. I also gave my mom a set of keys. She was thrilled, a little too thrilled now that I think about it. Over time, the house became the official family gathering spot. My parents would go on some weekends to rest. Brooke started taking Jason for romantic getaways. On holidays or long weekends, we all ended up there. Me, my parents, Brooke, Jason, sometimes my Aunt Lisa and her husband, or my Uncle Mark with his family. On one occasion, even Jason's parents went, Nancy and Gary, proper people, somewhat serious but polite. For a long time, I felt happy with my decision. Yes, I had taken on a mortgage when I could have bought something in cash by selling the house, but seeing my family happy comforted me. I earned well, lacked nothing, and could handle the payments. I kept telling myself it was worth it. Brooke talked more and more about Jason, and it was obvious the relationship was getting serious. His parents started showing up at some gatherings, which was already a sign that things were heading toward an engagement. Then one Tuesday night my mom called me. Jessica, honey, just letting you know that this Friday we want to all get together at the house near St. Charles, she told me in her usual tone. Your dad and I are going, Brooke and Jason, his parents Nancy and Gary, and also Lisa and Mark with their kids. We want to spend the afternoon together. Are you going to be able to make it? I let out a breath. I would love to, Mom, but right on Friday I have an important meeting at the office, one of those that drag on until late. Do not worry, honey, she answered with an understanding voice. Your work comes first. We will have fun and then tell you all about it. I thanked her, hung up, and went on with my night without thinking too much about it. But on Friday morning everything changed. I was getting ready for the meeting when my boss called me. Jessica, I have bad news, he told me. The director and the deputy director woke up sick. We are going to move the meeting to next week. To be honest, I felt relieved. In fact, if you want, take the afternoon off, he added. We do not have much pending today. When I hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed for a few seconds. My family was at my house near St. Charles. I suddenly had the afternoon free, and without thinking much about it, it occurred to me to surprise them. It had been a while since I did something spontaneous. I imagined myself arriving with desserts, walking in unexpectedly, and seeing them happy to see me. So I went out, stopped by a bakery I love, and bought several delicious things. Chocolate croissants, fruit tarts, butter cookies, an assortment of the kind that makes anyone happy. Then I drove towards St. Charles. It took me longer than usual because of the Friday traffic leaving the city, but I still arrived before dark. When I arrived, I saw all the cars parked outside, my parents' old Ford, Brooke's red car, Jason's SUV, and other cars I recognized from my aunts and uncles. All the lights were on, and I could hear movement inside. I grabbed the bag of desserts and got out quietly. I really wanted to surprise them, so I took out my key and opened the door without making a sound. From the hallway, I could hear voices, laughter, and the clinking of glasses and plates. I was just about to walk into the living room and yell something like surprise when I heard my mom say something that froze me. I swear to you, Jessica is incredibly foolish. And several people laughed. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. I stood motionless, glued to the wall, not quite understanding what I had just heard. She does exactly what we tell her, my mom continued, as if she were on a leash. More laughter. Then I heard my dad. Remember when we convinced her not to sell this house? She was ready to sell it to buy a better apartment and pay for it in full, but we fed her the story about family memories and that was it. She kept the house and went into debt with a mortgage while we come here whenever we feel like it. My mom let out a short laugh. Seriously, that girl does not know how to set boundaries. I could not breathe properly. I held the bakery bag tight against my chest, and my hands were turning ice cold. Then Brooke spoke. That is nothing. If you knew how many times I have called her crying to ask for help with rent. She always falls for it. Someone asked her how much she gave her. About $700, Brooke said casually. Sometimes more if I just tell her I cannot afford anything anymore. The room burst into laughter again. Then I heard my Aunt Lisa's voice. I have a good one too. About 6 months ago, I called her saying I urgently needed money for a dental treatment. I told her the dentist was going to charge me about $2,200 and that I had nowhere to get it from. And she gave it to you, my mom said. The next day she transferred it to me via my banking app. Not a single question, no receipt, nothing. And did you get the treatment done? Someone asked. Of course not, Lisa answered proudly. With that, I bought my new living room set and a beautiful coffee table. I heard laughter and a couple of glasses clinking. My Uncle Mark did not want to be left behind. Last year, when I made Jessica believe my car was falling apart, she offered me about $1,600 for the repairs. I took the money and bought a huge TV and a new grill instead. I felt nauseous. Years of helping, of emergencies, of late-night calls, of feeling useful, loved, necessary, and it had all been a lie. Then I heard my mom again. Honestly, Jessica is like having an open wallet always nearby. You ask her, and she gives without asking anything. And the best part, my dad added, is that she does not even ask you to pay her back. You tell her any story, and she hands over the money. Someone let out a long laugh. We have to be careful not to let this run out, my dad said. Lest she wakes up one day and starts telling us no. My mom sounded excited. Actually, I am already thinking about the next thing. Brooke and Jason are probably getting engaged soon, right? We have been talking about it, Brooke answered. Perfect, my mom continued. When it happens, we are going to make Jessica pay for the wedding. We can easily get between $12,000 and $17,000 out of her, maybe more if we play it right. And how are you going to get that out of her? Lisa asked. Very simple, my mom replied. We are going to tell her that this is what family is for, that since she is doing well, it is her turn to help her younger sister have the wedding she deserves. Without a doubt, we will make her feel guilty. The clinking of several glasses was heard. To the relatives with money who never understand a thing, a voice said. And to Jessica, my mom added, who always ends up paying. They all toasted. I stood there in the hallway of my own house, feeling like something much bigger than a family relationship was collapsing around me. It was not just the humiliation. It was realizing that to them, I was not the responsible daughter, or the generous sister, or the niece they could trust. I was the useful fool, the one who paid, the one who opened her wallet, the one who lent the house, the one who solved things. I turned around silently and walked back to the door. My hands were shaking so much that I could barely close it without making a noise. I left the bag of desserts on the passenger seat, got in my car, and drove away slowly with blurred vision. As soon as I got to my apartment, I broke down. I cried for hours. I cried out of anger, shame, disbelief. I also cried for myself for all the times I helped thinking it was love. I spent the whole weekend thinking about the exact same thing. A part of me wanted to call them immediately and scream everything at them. But then I realized something. I was not going to warn them. I was not going to give them that advantage. I was going to let them walk right into the trap they were planning themselves. They did not take long at all. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday night, my mom called me with exaggerated joy. Jessica, honey, we have beautiful news. Brooke and Jason are officially engaged. How wonderful, I said, as if I did not know exactly how that call was going to end. I am so glad. We want to host a lunch to celebrate the engagement at the house near St. Charles in 2 weeks. Something special. Very beautiful. Of course, Mom. You know the house has always been available for family events. There was a pause. I could almost hear her adjusting her voice for the next step. We just have one small problem, she finally said with a worried tone. What happened? We want the gathering to be gorgeous, good food, decorations, a beautiful cake, everything lovely for Brooke and Jason. But right now we are a little tight on money. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. That is too bad, I said. And yes, a gathering like that is expensive. We feel embarrassed asking you this, honey, but we need about $3,900 to make it really special. You know, the service, the decorations, the food, the cake, and well, Brooke only gets engaged once. There it was, exactly what I had heard in that living room. $3,900, I repeated, feigning surprise. Yes, that is quite a lot. I know, my mom said. But you are doing well, and Brooke is your only sister. It is a very important moment for her. I could imagine her holding her breath, certain that I was going to say yes like always. Mom, I would love to help, but right now I do not have that kind of spare money, I told her. I had some unexpected expenses with the apartment, and they ate up my emergency fund. I immediately noticed the disappointment in her silence, but she was not giving up yet. Well, she said, what if we pay for everything first and then you pay us back as soon as you can? Inside I smiled. That could actually work, I calmly replied. You guys advance the payments, and then I will pay you back as soon as I get settled. Really? She said, relieved. Oh, Jessica, you are an angel. I will talk to everyone tomorrow to finalize it. Perfect. I am sure Brooke will be thrilled. I hung up and stared at my phone. They were so sure they knew me that they did not even suspect a thing. 2 weeks later, the Thursday before the lunch, I called a locksmith and asked him to go to the house on Friday afternoon. I told him I needed to change all the locks, the front door, the back door, and the side entrances. We agreed on 7 o'clock. On Friday, after leaving work, I drove to St. Charles. I hit traffic again, although by that time the way out of the city was starting to clear up a bit. When I arrived, I saw they had already been there. The house was decorated. They had hung lights, bows, balloons, tablecloths, and centerpieces. The heavy catering setup was not there yet, but they had left everything else ready. To be honest, it looked pretty. I almost felt pity. Almost. The locksmith arrived on time, did his job, and left. Afterward, I walked through the whole house in silence. I saw the dining room, the living room, the terrace, the garden. I saw the result of everything they had paid for, believing they were going to collect it from me later through guilt and emotional blackmail. Then I started taking it all down. I unhooked balloons, gathered ribbons, removed tablecloths, turned off the decorative lights, picked up ornaments, and stuffed everything into large black trash bags. I left them stacked in an outside corner, near the entrance, visible from the gate. When I finished, I went back to my apartment to wait. On Saturday morning, I sent my mom a message. Mom, sorry, I woke up feeling terrible, my throat and my whole body ache. I am not going to be able to make it to the lunch. I do not want to get anyone sick. She replied an hour later. That is fine, honey, get better. Just that. Not a do you want me to bring you anything or how are you feeling or get some rest. She did not even fake an interest. She almost seemed relieved I would not be there. I spent a quiet morning, ordered a pizza, poured myself some coffee and sat down to wait. At about 2 in the afternoon, the show began. First my mom called me, I let it ring. Then my dad, then Brooke, then my mom again. My phone would not stop vibrating. Finally, I opened the messages. Honey, the keys are not working. Jessica, something happened to the door. The locks are changed. Where are you? Answer now. This is not funny. I left the phone face down and kept eating my pizza. For the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of calm. They were outside my house, confused, upset, doing mental math, trying to figure out why something was not going their way like always. Half an hour later, I decided to answer. Jessica, thank God. My mom yelled as soon as I picked up the call. We are all here and we cannot get in. The guests have arrived, the food has arrived, everything is here and the keys do not work. We are standing outside like fools. How strange, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. What do you mean, how strange? Something is wrong with the lock. Nothing, I replied. I had all the locks changed yesterday. On the other end, there was complete silence. You what? My mom finally stammered. You changed the locks. Yes. And why would you do something like that? Because a month ago I heard you say in front of the whole family that I was a fool. I told her with a calm that even surprised me. I also heard you laugh at me. You, my dad, Brooke, Lisa, Mark, everyone. There was another pause. Jessica, honey, I think you are confusing something, she said then, using that sweet voice she used when she wanted to straighten out a lie. We would never talk about you like that. No. I asked. So, you did not say I did everything you asked as if I were a puppet? She stayed quiet. And Brooke did not brag about getting rent money out of me every time she cries? Silence. And Lisa did not tell everyone, dying of laughter, that she spent the money for her supposed dental treatment on a new living room set? Jessica, you are not understanding, my mom said, but she sounded nervous now. I understood perfectly. I heard the part about the open wallet. I heard how you planned to get money out of me for Brooke's wedding. I heard the toast. I heard everything. Period. Behind her, voices could be heard. People asking questions. Movement. I imagined everyone looking at each other's faces. Well, my mom said after a moment, even if you heard something, you have to understand we were just playing. They were jokes. I laughed. What a curious sense of humor, I told her. Taking thousands of dollars from someone while calling them a fool behind their back. Jessica, do not come and ruin this moment for us. Brooke suddenly chimed in, having somehow grabbed the phone. Everyone is already here. The food has arrived. You already ruined my celebration. Your celebration, I told her. The one you wanted me to end up paying for while you made fun of me. You are being immature, she yelled at me. We already decorated everything. Not anymore, I replied. Taking everything down took me less time than I thought. Your decorations are stuffed in black bags right by the entrance. Pick them up and leave. You are ungrateful, my dad now yelled in the background. Brooke kept crying. You cannot do this to me. It is my day. Yes, I can, I answered. It is my house. We are going to get in anyway, my dad blurted out. Do not do it, I said with a firm voice. There are cameras, there is an alarm, and if you damage my property, I will call the police and file a police report for property damage. Do not test me. I heard Brooke burst into tears. Then my mom took the phone back. Jessica, please, she said, now actually begging. Let us in and we will talk calmly. We are adults. This can be fixed. I did not answer her. What I needed to hear I already heard. What you all think of me is already crystal clear. There is nothing to fix. But we already spent $3,900 on this lunch, she blurted out desperately. I could not help but laugh. And whose idea was that, Mom? I told you I did not have that money. You all decided to spend it, hoping to guilt-trip me later. That was your problem, not mine. We are your family, she said with a mix of anger and dread. Yes, I replied. And that is exactly why it hurts more. Now grab your things, pack up your food, get in your cars, get off my property and do not come back. Are you serious? My mom said in a whisper. Completely. I hung up and muted my phone. For the next hour I watched the cameras from my phone. It was an almost ridiculous scene. Waiters carrying trays back, cake boxes going back into the car, my aunts and uncles picking up black bags with crumpled decorations, Jason's parents looking tremendously embarrassed, Jason not knowing where to hide. Brooke crying by the gate as if she genuinely did not understand how she had ended up there. It gave me satisfaction. I will not lie, a lot of it. The next morning, Sunday, there was a loud knock on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents and Brooke standing outside furious. I opened it. What do you want? To talk, my dad said, and tried to step inside as if he still had the right to enter my house. You ruined everything, Brooke screamed as soon as she walked in. My engagement lunch was ruined because of you. No, I told her. It was ruined because you believed I was naive enough to pay for it after hearing how you all mocked me. You owe us $3,900, my mom blurted out. We spent that money for you. I laughed so hard my stomach actually hurt. You spent that money because you thought you could manipulate me again. That is what happened. My mom turned pale. In that instant, she understood that I had let them move forward on purpose. You did this on purpose, she murmured. Of course I did. You thought I was a fool, right? Well, it turned out I am not that much of one. My dad took a step toward me. If you do not apologize and pay us back, do not ever look for us again. I looked at him and smiled. Perfect. You are saving me the trouble, because I do not want to talk to you ever again either. Jessica, you cannot be serious, my mom said. I could not be more serious. Brooke started crying again. We just wanted something beautiful. You wanted me to pay for it, I corrected her. Like always. We are blood, my dad said. And you used that to rob me, lie to me, and laugh at me, I replied. It is over. I walked over to the door and opened it. Now please leave. None of them said anything else. They walked out one by one with hardened faces. My mom still turned to look at me, hoping I would soften up at the end. It did not happen. I closed the door and leaned against it for a few seconds, breathing. That was 6 months ago. I did not sell the house near St. Charles. I did something better. I signed with a property management company that handles vacation rentals, and now the house is rented out for weekends and short stays. That income helps me a lot with the apartment mortgage, and besides, the property finally brings me peace instead of problems. I found out through Facebook that Brooke got married last month. A small, rather simple wedding in a neighborhood church with a modest reception. I was not invited. I did not send a gift either. My parents and she have tried to reach out to me through acquaintances, but I have ignored them. I have no interest in reconciling. When someone shows you so clearly who you are to them, the healthiest thing is to believe them. To be honest, I am much more at peace since they walked out of my life much more. It turns out I was not as foolish as they thought. The only thing that happened was that I stopped being the person they could use without consequences. I understood that the problem did not start the day I heard my family mocking me, but long before, when I confused love with silent sacrifice and began to believe that always helping, without asking questions and without setting boundaries, was the only way to care for my loved ones. I also understood that two things fueled everything. On one hand, my need to feel useful and keep the peace. And on the other, a family dynamic where habit, guilt, and closeness made several people see my support as something readily available and without consequences. In the short term, discovering this broke me inside, hurt my self-esteem, and forced me to accept a very bitter truth. But in the long term, it gave me back something I had been losing without noticing. Self-respect, the right to say no, and the clarity to understand that generosity needs boundaries to remain healthy. I was also left with a practical idea that works in real life. Comment. I really hope this story stayed with you the way it stayed with me. For me, the biggest thing I took away is how deeply self-respect changes everything. Setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away, but about protecting the peace you deserve. True kindness means giving from a full heart, not from guilt or fear. When we finally choose ourselves, we start healing in ways we never expected. I want you to know you're allowed to say no without explaining yourself. Taking responsibility for your own happiness is one of the kindest things you can do. Learning to choose calm over chaos has brought me more freedom than I've ever imagined. Surround yourself with people who see your worth and never make you prove it. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.